then he'll be down shortly. And
Oh,
yeah,
great.
good to
Hey,
see
Jeff. Yeah, nice to talk to you again.
you. Indeed. So
Yeah.
he's gotten very. I'm not exactly sure what the topic is, but he's gotten very interested in data analytics and data science. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, so today, Joe and I have been doing these for a little bit. Hey, Joseph, how's it going, man? Good to see you again. Yeah, so Joe and I have been doing these kind of chats for a couple of months now, and a lot of it comes down to we talk. So Joe and I don't know how many decades of experience we have between us. I mean, it's pretty
Don't count on.
ridiculous.
Don't, please.
Yeah, it's probably it's quite a bit, but like it's kind of open ended. We kind of do this as a way to it's an open forum, and people can come in and ask anything that they want. They can ask about, oh, like I want to learn about TensorFlow or PyTorch or whatever. We also get a lot of questions around like, what class should I take, or what's my career path supposed to be. So a lot of kind of the personal development type stuff too.
were you doing this face to face before, or it's always been by?
Yeah, so it's always been virtual. So Joe's actually in New Jersey, and I'm in Washington State, and we just do it over Zoom. We actually met last year. We just really hit it off, and we've just been cranking these out and having a great time.
Super.
Yeah, I know. And I mean, it's just, I think from my perspective, and Joe, like, feel free to chime in, but like, I've been doing this long enough that it's just like, I want to give back to the community and really mentor new people who are coming into data science and all that stuff. And this is the way that we've been able to figure it out.
Yeah. And what's Joe and Joseph's background?
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about myself and for the folks on the line. Yeah, so I've worked in research and development for probably over 25 years now. Worked 13 of the years at a large consulting company called Booz Allen Hamilton, and basically learned how to do data science there. I mean, my background is in electrical engineering and wireless communications. Worked on some of the first cellular networks back in the 90s. Was a cool experience. Worked with Bell Labs, a lot of research organizations, and over the most recent years, I've led AI teams at both Booz Allen and Perspective Labs. But I think the interesting thing about, I guess, what Matt and I kind of talk about on these calls and with folks is that it's, the technical stuff is interesting, right? We're all trying to achieve technical goals in our life. We're trying to grow. We're trying to learn. But in order to do that, in order to be successful in our careers and really, honestly, anything, is there's all this personal development stuff behind it, right? And, I was fortunate enough to study with great teachers like Anthony Robbins, one-on-one coaching programs with Brendan Burchard, who's an awesome teacher as well. And Matt's has a ton of experience working with personal development programs and some of the leaders in that space. So we thought, hey, we're kind of techie guys. We're data science, AI, machine learning guys. Let's get together in the community and share some of the things that we've learned in the personal development space to kind of help people get further in their career. So
sounds great.
Yeah, so that's kind of a little bit, kind of how this all got started.
Well, and it's funny because Jeff is a good buddy of a guy that I sit in my Mankind Project group with, Bryce. I've gotten so much benefit out of MKP. It's ridiculous. Of course, I do other stuff too, but like, it's one of these funny things of like Joe and I were just having this discussion as like, kind of senior like people and just going like, yeah, Strata is great. We're learning all this data science stuff and PyTorch and TensorFlow, and that's all important. But geez, all of this other stuff is also important. It's like, the coaching aspect of like being a better a team player, learning leadership tactics, like all of that stuff. It just really adds up. So, yeah.
Well, I think in general, peer-to-peer mentoring and mentors in general are really critical. I've been doing mentoring at the Foster School, UW grad school for I guess 16 years now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would say I missed out on that. I never sought mentors, and things worked out okay. But I think it's really important. And that's what I tell my kids. In whatever capacity, whether you're at school or working, seek out mentors. Ideally, it shouldn't be the person you directly report to, but people you respect, either in your cohort or have had success at the company you're working. It's just really invaluable.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point, which is, I totally agree with that. Like, I feel like the people I learn best from are people who are not my boss, because they don't hold on to my paycheck, so to speak. And having that like third party, somebody who maybe is a couple steps ahead, maybe they're even close to ending their career, is so valuable to me, I know. And just being able to like ask a question or something like that, which is really why Joe and I are doing this. It's just, there's so many people who will join me on my like training seminars, and it's like, I get the sense that they're looking for more mentorship, and there's not a lot for data scientists. It's very like, it's focused on, the modeling and the statistics and on all of that stuff. And that is important. Of course, you have to know it, but sometimes it's just useful to know, like, hey, this is how you like manage Slack so that you don't get overwhelmed with communication. It's just like, some of those things aren't really taught in a class. And that's really why Joe and I do these calls. And the other thing that Joe and I do is we've been running this kind of like, asynchronous community as well. It's basically all run through Slack. And it's honestly our gift to people. Is just like, we're just here to support. And I think we love doing it. So
Yeah. Something you said triggered. I of course, Bryce is a good friend, but I don't really know the ins and outs, or I don't know much at all about the Mankind Project or similar nature. But as you were talking, I was thinking, I've done a lot of work, and there's a lot of mentoring that goes on in for helping would-be entrepreneurs with lean startup methodology. It'd be kind of interesting to do an analog to the business model canvas for personal development.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Think about it. Have you done that exercise of?
Yeah. So, Joe, I'm curious whether you've done this or not, but like the business model canvas is really cool. That kind of came out of I know originally like Steve Blank was talking about a lot of this, like, entrepreneurship stuff. And then I can't remember the guy's name who came out with the business model canvas, but it's so cool. It's just like a very visual thing of like, these are the areas that you need to focus on in your business to really build it. Like whether it's, external partners or, internal like strengths, that kind of stuff. I could totally see that being applied to the personal development space too. Cause I think a lot of the time it's just like, we just need something simple, to get us started. And that's what's so cool about the canvas. I like that.
Maybe, I'm just winging it here, but the analog of, a critical part of that, of course, is hypotheses and then testing it through customer discovery interviews. So, I guess it would be your kind of collective fonts of wisdom, and your mentors that would be your discovery calls or interviews.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, one thing I've learned from Tony Robbins and Brandon and a lot of the great teachers and influencers of my life is that, you kind of study these things, and to really teach it and teach it well, you got to come up with a framework, right? Yeah. And, I think business model canvas is probably a good example of this, is that, once you teach from a framework, especially a visual framework, then it's memorable, right? You can memorize that. You can draw the picture again, and that helps guide you and others through whatever it is you're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome point. Awesome point.
Yeah, I love that point. Yeah, I think Joe and I will probably work on something like that now.
Great.
Yeah.
And Joseph, where are you?
Yeah, I'm curious to hear from Joseph. Yeah, Joseph and I have talked a couple of times before. Oh yeah, he's got the Star Trek going on.
Yeah, I'm in St. Pete, Florida. I'm
man.
a student right now of data science, looking to make it more full-time. This is actually very interesting timing for me because there's some major, I can't go into details, and I don't even have all the details. Matt may have some idea, actually. There's some major shakeup in the design department for the company I work for, though, that my job is changing, and I don't know how, but I'm just looking to find a way to tie in everything I've been learning over the past 18 months now is when I started focusing on Python for data science.
Yeah.
So just looking to figure that out.
Yeah. So I guess, I got a question for you, which is if you're, it sounds like you're kind of getting to a crossroads, and it's like you've been studying data science for a while. So 18 months is a long time. So you're pretty schooled up on a lot of the concepts. And I'm curious, what you see as the two paths in front of you. Is it do you want to keep doing what you're doing, or do you want to go more towards the data science specific stuff, or maybe somewhere in between? So I'm curious, what would be the best case scenario for you?
Yeah, I think the best case would be able to actually step into a full-time data science role. I'm just still at that, mostly probably a mental block. I've never had the privilege of working with some of the people, but I have, you can't see my bookshelf because I have a fake background, but you'll see some Brendan Burchard stuff back there, some Tony Robbins over on the other shelf, and I think a lot of it's just mental for me, and I need to get a game plan in place and figure out what that looks like to move full time from where I am now to.
Well, yeah, and I think the mental blocks you're in good company, because I know I've got tons of mental blocks. I can't speak for Joe, and I can't speak for Jeff, but I feel like that's the war that I'm constantly waging on myself, is all these stupid mental blocks. And I guess my other question to you is really, what is the mental block? Are you afraid that you don't know enough, or is it, what is the real thing preventing you from, really pursuing a data science career?
I think it's a mixture of, I think I do know enough technically. I think I know enough of how to actually look at the data, because prior to this, I've always been that analytical person. I have a degree in criminology, which is mostly data-driven stuff.
That's awesome.
So it's not most of the concepts, none of that's new per se. There's been some refreshing of concepts over the last 18 months, but none of it's new, versus all the technical stuff is what I've really developed. But I think at this point, I'm actually ready to do that too. I think I have that at least proficient enough to start. I think the big mental block is, where do I go? How do I make that leap? How do I, especially because I do love the company I work for. They're a great company, and I want to stay there. But how do I, and I've communicated it to some people there, but they're not, I think, the people who would actually help me make this leap, and I don't know who to.
Joe, I'm really curious about your thoughts on this, because I find that I'll give you a little backstory. It's I started out as a software developer, no data science. Zero data science. I found myself, I liked my job. It was fine. I got a paycheck. It was fine. It was totally great. I got to write code. There was no data science job at the company I worked at. And what I found that worked best for me is, instead of focusing on, oh, I got to go get a job at Facebook or, LinkedIn or whoever has a data scientist job, I just started looking for opportunities within reach. And like when I first started, I had a background in statistics and mathematics. I mean, I don't have a degree in criminology like you do. That's really cool. I had a degree in like just plain old statistics. So I'd take little tiny projects and I'd be like, hey, like, did you guys ever think about this? Or like, I did a little analysis, like, here you go. It didn't take much time. Like, it was like, maybe it wasn't the 20% time, it was like 5%. But honestly, that's what led to the 5% turned into 15%, turned into 30, turned into like 100% of my time. Because I think there's kind of this like overnight success idea that I've had in my mind of like, oh, like I just turned on the dial and all of a sudden I'm a data scientist. It just didn't work that way. I had to kind of walk before I could start running. And I think like my perspective and really, I don't like to give necessarily life advice, but I can talk about my own experience. Is that like I just focused on taking little steps at a time, and I know where you work because a client of mine as well. I think that the company would be totally fine with you taking steps. That's my judgment. But I'm curious what you think, Joe.
Yeah. So one thing I learned when I was working at Booz Allen is that so Booz Allen, if you're not familiar with them, super large consulting company, definitely in the top 3 in the world. And what they did, and I watched them do this as a company over all this time, is that whenever there was an area or technology that they anticipated to be high growth, in other words, they're looking, within the next 5 years, where is there going to be a huge demand for technical skills, they would invest a ton of money into training their current staff to have these skills. So I witnessed this in several different cases. Early on it was cybersecurity, and then around I don't know, I want to say maybe around 2010-ish, it started to become data science and machine learning. So Booz Allen had put together a program where their goal was to train 5,000 staff members. They called this Data Science 5K. So they opened up this program to all staff. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the first 100 people accepted into the program. And that's kind of where I started to really hone my data science and machine learning skills. Now, I had some experience with it previously. I mean, I graduated college in the 90s and actually studied some machine learning with computer vision. But when I tell you nobody was really talking about it back then, it was really, it was this really highly mathematical thing. And computer vision, it was popular, but it is not nearly a fraction of what it is today. So I was able to take advantage of this program as part of my company. And I'll tell you what the key part was, and maybe this will help you out, Joseph, is the key part is I think if you want to grow, there's a number of ways to do it, but one way to do it is to, learn on your own, right? Dedicate, commit yourself to extra time, whether it's an extra hour a day, whether it's an extra day a week, whatever that extra time is, commit yourself to learning skills. Now, we live in a world today where you can learn anything for free virtually on the internet. Like there's no shortage of abundance of material. Go out and learn it. Second key part, and this was key for me, after I completed the program at Booz Allen, my light just went out. After I completed the program at Booz Allen, I was able to apply what I learned immediately to client work. Okay, so this is a key point. And I think, like in your situation, there may or may not be opportunities where you work to apply some of the stuff that you learned, but look for those opportunities. And if you see something, no matter how small it might be, is propose to your leadership or to your boss or supervisor, hey, look, I've been studying this stuff. I've been really think that it can be useful in this situation. Propose that you take a percentage of your time and work on that on your projects. If you can do that, man, that's where things start to take off from there. It's learn it on, be committed to learning something extra, and then take that and apply it to work, or apply it to a side project, or become a freelancer on the nights and weekends, whatever it is to get you out of the classroom and into the real life application of what you learn.
Yeah. It's good advice, man.
Put some light here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. No, that is, yeah, and I don't even fully know what I'm going to be doing starting next week.
Yeah.
But I've been told by the head of the department that apparently I will have an opportunity to apply some data stuff. Right now I'm like, I still don't know what I'm actually doing though. So I don't know how to apply it. But I will definitely keep that advice in mind and look for any opportunity I can to be like, oh, hey, we have this data available. Let me pull it out, throw it in a Jupyter notebook and play with it.
Well, like the other thing I would say is there's a very funny like question that's just like, are you afraid of falling? And a lot of people will say, yeah, of course I'm afraid of falling. And it's like, no, you're not afraid of falling. You're afraid of hitting the ground. Is really what it comes down to. And I think it's totally reasonable to have the fear of the unknown. It's just like things get shooken up, companies change, companies go away, people go bankrupt, pandemics happen. I mean, like all this stuff happens, right? And the real goal is to look at the fear and look at the what you're afraid of as a real opportunity. Because and what I mean by that is, it's like, obviously there's things that you should be afraid of, like don't jump off of a cliff, don't jump off of a bridge, please don't do that. Seriously, don't do those things, those are dangerous. But when it comes to like work, I mean, the worst case scenario is that, we lose out on work and then we go find something new. But that cycle in itself is great sometimes, so yeah, I mean, just lean into it, man. You'll get there.
There's a famous quote. I'm not sure if I think it's Zig Ziglar, but it's, just see the first step. You don't need to see the entire staircase, right? So, just see the first step and take that first step, and that's it. And get the momentum flowing. We're science people. It's all the physics, laws of physics, right? It's an object at rest stays at rest. An object in motion stays in motion. Yeah. It's, and this happens to me working out all the time. I wake up in the morning, I don't feel like working out, but I'm like, you know what? Let me just go and walk for like 5 minutes. And then if I still don't feel like working out, I won't. But every single time I go, you take a few steps, you get into it, you keep going, you get that momentum going.
Just keep going.
I appreciate it. That's definitely some good advice.
Well, we're here to support you, like seriously, and that's what we're here for. I think part of the other thing that I will say this is like, what Joe was talking about with Booz Allen Hamilton. I think there's something behind the program that he was talking about, the data science 5K. It's having somebody who's been there and saying like, yeah, I get it. Like these things kind of suck. It's just like, it's going to happen. But you'll get through it and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. I really feel that, you've put in the work, studying data science for 18 months. That's a big investment. And it will pay off. It really will. And it's just about like finding the right place to stick your neck out a little bit. And trust me, no boss under the planet would be upset at somebody taking on a little bit extra work, and stepping up to the plate. I don't think anybody would be upset about that. So yeah.
So we had mentioned, before I get into that, one thing I want to say, which is just the field of data science, machine learning, AI, data analytics. It's such an awesome field right now, and being around and being through the birth of the internet. When I went to college, we didn't have internet. You couldn't go on and browse. Everything was like dial-up, right? Seeing the birth of internet, seeing cellular, the fact that cell phones are everywhere, that didn't exist. The fact, social media and basically all these applications that we have, and now AI and data science. Data science and AI is like so much bigger than anything I've ever seen before, and the opportunities that are there. With that said, most people don't realize it never ends. Like you can't, the path is you don't, okay, I'm going to go learn this and I'm done. Right. And anybody that's in this field will tell you it never ends. Every single year, every single month, there's something new to learn. And I don't think that anybody in their entire lifetime can learn everything that's in this field. It's just, there's so much to it.
Oh gosh, that's crazy, man. Yeah.
So, it's so exciting that, we live in this time. It's so exciting to be alive and have our careers at this level at this time. But also, just know that little bit that you've learned in the last 18 months, whatever you learned in the last month, it's another step in the staircase, right? And that staircase is never going to end. You're never going to reach the top. I'll tell all of you guys on the phone right now, here's a big secret. You're never going to reach the end, right? So the joy in it is what you're doing at that step, right? Enjoy the step that you're in, appreciate, and look forward to the next step. But that's all you got to worry about right now.
That's probably one of the things that are most attractive to me in data science is that fact that to me, I'm never going to know enough, basically, because there's always something new to learn. And I find that fascinating because I'm one of those people who actually just will read a book just to read a book, just to learn something, right? Or I just like learning for the sake of learning.
Yep.
So being able to pursue something professionally that I know will constantly keep me learning new things is exciting.
Yeah, and I think at the same time, there is an end to every step, right? So in other words, each time you learn something, now it's like having another tool in your toolbox, right? Yeah. So like maybe the first time you were able to read some data in pandas and, print some statistics or plot out the data and do some analysis on that. It's like, that might have taken a couple months to figure out or, a couple weeks to figure out, but now you have that in your toolbox. So it's like, okay, now I have this, I'm good. Let's see what else I can build, what other tools I can build and expand that further. So it's the amount of opportunities is so abundant, but at the same time, I think it's important for people to kind of reflect on what you have learned over the past month or over the past year and say, hey, you know what? At the beginning of the year, I had no clue how to write a lick of Python. And now look at me, kind of thing. So it's important to appreciate that and reflect upon that as well.
Awesome stuff.
All right, so we had a couple folks that joined the call, so I just want to welcome Daliana and Jasmine to the call.
Yeah,
glad you could join us.
Matthew's there too, so it's not the same name.
Okay, so Jeff is Matthew.
I actually shared this with my dad, so I'm using.
Yeah, right on, man. Yeah, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for putting this on.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, sorry for joining late. Really appreciate it.
No worries at all. Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we are just kind of chit-chatting right now, talking about, just personal development and data science and Matt and I have been doing these for a number of months now. You know, it's a very open discussion. So we do have some topics that we, you know, kind of plan to talk about, but really we're here for you. So anything that's on your mind, if there's things, challenges that you're having, things that you want to accomplish, anything that you want to achieve in life or reach a sense of fulfillment, we're here to share our experience. You know, not only have each of us have decades of technical experience, you know, a lot of experience in data science, machine learning, and AI. Is what's unique about Matt and I is we've been through a lot of personal development programs from some of the top teachers in the world, like Tony Robbins and Brendan Burchard and Brian Tracy, and you know, you name it. You know, even folks like Wayne Dyer, Chopra, right? It's like we sometimes get into a little bit of spirituality here, right? And Matt and I recognize that this is probably something that's lacking in our community. So we want to bring this to you and share what we've learned in personal development as well as technical expertise. So, so Matt, do you want to just kind of open for Q&A right now, or did you want to cover something specifically?
Yeah, you know, I kind of love the Q&A style we got going on today. It seems to be working pretty well. So I'm curious if anybody has anything that they're sitting on today that they're, you know, want to discuss with the group. I mean, of course, other people can chime in too, but again, like, you know, Joe and I, like, yeah, I don't know. I love this stuff. So, and we're here to support you as best as we can. I mean, of course, we can't solve all the world's problems, but we'll try. So, yeah, I'm curious. Anybody got a thing that they're sitting on? Anything that they're struggling with? It could be data science related too. You know, I mean, Joe's got a ton of experience in PyTorch, and I got a ton of experience in like Keras and TensorFlow and all that kind of stuff. But I just find that every time I do a machine learning talk, people will ask, "Oh, what class should I take? What should I do next? What is the best way to interview?" Or, you know, those sorts of questions, which there isn't a lot of good resources out there. So that's why Joe and I do this. It's just to open it up. So anybody can go if you have something.
Yeah. So.
Oh, Daliana.
Oh, am I interrupting anyone? I heard
No.
someone was asking. Okay, I can start. I'm a data scientist. I've been working as a data scientist or BI engineer for 5 years. So my question is, if I think about my director or like VP on data scientists, they're not necessarily coming from like data science or technical background, but they can, you know, successfully drive organization, develop data science products. So I'm just trying to think, so if I on the path of being say a tech lead or manager on the team, do I have to know every kind of techniques in the world? I guess the answer is no, but you have to have certain level of familiarity of the basics, and then maybe you don't code at one point. So my question is so if you want to become a leader in a team or organization, how do you find a balance between the breadths and the depths of technical skills? And then if you start to lead a project that's completely new to you, how do you have the confidence that you're going to get it done? Do you relying on like finding the right people, or, you know, yourself learning things very fast? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah, that's a big question. So I'll take a crack at this. Leadership is interesting for me in that I do a lot of consulting. So I'm a consultant first and foremost, and a lot of the time I end up leading the project. I'm not the manager, you know, I'm not a VP of engineering or anything like that. So my experience will be a little bit different than Joe's. I find that leadership is interesting because I think a lot of us, I used to be in this category of thinking that as a leader, I need to have all the answers. And what I really learned when I got kind of put into leadership positions is that 98% of it is listening to people really, really well. And then 2% is me saying, you know what, we're not going to do that. That's not a good idea. But really, good leaders are able to listen to everybody, including the person who's maybe a little annoying to listen to, and take that and then put it together into one package, one direction. And what's interesting is that, you know, I mean, there's kind of this distinction between like individual contributors and like management. Individual contributors are always trying to focus on increasing their knowledge, which is great and very important. Management is about like getting people to get closer to a goal, really. I mean, it's about getting people towards success, whatever that success may look like. And what's interesting is that individual contributors can get to a level of so much knowledge, so much information, that they have a really hard time with people problems. So I think the distinction that I find is that management, leadership, all of those things are just a whole different set of principles. And it's not about knowledge. It's not about who has the best information. If anything, it's about, it's not even about leading from the front. That's another thing that people talk about of like, I used to think like, I need to be at the front, like doing the most amount of work, the best work. And in a leadership context, I can turn into a real jerk doing that because I'm like upstaging everybody. And that actually is worse. So it's really, it's a hard transition because what makes me successful as an individual contributor actually ends up hurting me as a leader. Because I'm trying to get better and better and better and better. But if I do that as a leader, nobody's going to want to follow me. So I guess like my suggestion is really to focus in on listening as openly as possible, and trusting other people. That's another big aspect of leadership, is that you have to lead with trust. Because if you don't trust people that you're leading, they are not going to trust you. And trust is so important when it comes to leadership. Again, this is all flavored by my experience, which is consulting, leading specific projects. But those are kind of the leadership lessons I've learned. So yeah, I'm curious, Joe, what you think about, like, you know, stepping into that leadership type stuff.
Yeah, those are all good points, Matt. Trust, you know, being able to listen. Those I think are extremely important. I mean, it's an interesting thing because as you transition from somebody who's technical and more of an individual contributor into somebody that's more in a leadership position, as the saying goes, you know, what got you here is not going to get you to the next level. The skills that got you here are not the same skills that are going to get you to the next level. So you have to develop other skills as well. But I think it's also important. There's a couple things I want to say about leadership. One is as you transition into a leadership role in a company, it's important to be aware that there's different types of leadership positions. Okay. Yeah. And I could speak to, you know, my experience at Booz Allen and other large companies. Is there's some leadership positions where business development is extremely important, right? There's other leadership positions where, you know, product development and getting a product out the door is very important. There's other leadership positions where, you know, building a team and hiring, you know, say you come into an environment where you don't have a team or you have a small team and you need to grow that. And now you need to hire certain people to come on board and contribute. All of those are going to require different skills to succeed. So I think the first thing is to be aware of what you're shooting for, right? And is that really the position that you want? Is that the type of leadership role that you want? I know for me at Booz Allen, a lot of the leadership positions were mainly business development focused.
Yeah.
So it's all about, let's write proposals, let's win new work, that kind of stuff. It's a different, it really wasn't something I wanted to do. I wanted to do something where I was able to build teams, work on developing products and projects. So it's important to know that what you're shooting for.
Yeah.
The second thing which I want to point out is that there's no, you can take a course on like data science, right? And if you take a course on data science, you'll probably learn, the same 10 things from one course to the next, roughly about the same 10 things. With leadership, it's not so simple. There's not really, like, you don't really take a leadership course and then you're like a leader.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Isn't it true? Like,
so true.
And I know companies and there's organizations, Stephen Covey is a really great organization. Brendan Burchard has some good leadership programs where you can learn about leadership. But I think that it's a really personal thing where you have to ask yourself, what are some of the great leaders that I have had?
Yeah.
Right? What are some of the managers? And I don't want to label somebody good or bad, right? I don't want to say, well, that was a bad leader, that was a good leader. If you look at every individual, you can find good qualities about them and things that they did right and things that you think worked well. And I could share an experience that's not even related to technology. So I owned small businesses at one point. And I had owned a franchise businesses, and I was part of a large franchise organization. And a couple years after I had joined, I'd opened my first business, we had a new vice president come into the company. And he was one, what I think he had some really, really great leadership qualities that I've never experienced before. And I was like, wow, this guy is like really awesome the way he handles things. And a couple things I learned from him was that empathy is huge.
Yeah.
So, as technical people, we're not trained, empathy may not even be natural. We're just, to be able to be empathetic and to, like Matt mentioned, listen to people and really kind of feel where they're coming from is a very important thing to master.
Yeah.
And then another thing that he did that sort of stuck with me through these years was, he always got our backs.
Yeah.
So in other words, if there was a conflict with either his leadership, the company, as a business, we had customers. As a franchise developer, I had other franchisees I had to deal with. There was a lot of conflict that came up. But I always felt that when I had a conversation with him I feel like he had always supported me. And, there's been times where he frankly said, hey, Joe, it's up to you. Whatever you want to do, I got your back. So I think that's an important quality. And it's come up again. I could talk all day about this. I was a bouncer in a nightclub once for a while. And, I could tell you my head bouncer, there was times, again, you talk about conflict. I have conflict with people, and the head bouncer, this leader here who maybe has a high school education, maybe not, he had said to me, Joe, whatever you want to do, I got your back.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. It's something that I think you got to go out on this journey and look to discover what being a good leader means to you and how you want to shape yourself as a leader based on that.
Yeah. One other thing that I got a really big hit on, Joe, is the got your back is like the most important part of being a leader. Because in my judgment, every time I've been a leader, there have been times that I put myself at stake to basically save the people underneath me, so to speak. And it's an incredible burden as a leader, because really it comes down to the really good leaders, in my judgment, are the ones who are protecting people underneath them from all the other stuff. And protection is so important as a leader, because it's like, you know, if you're the CEO of an organization, you're protecting the company from the stakeholders and from, you know, lawsuits and all of this crazy stuff. And it's an incredible burden. But yeah, having the back of the people underneath is so important. And it's a big burden. But it's also highly rewarding. So, you know, I mean, it's something to think about as you progress.
Yeah, you know, it gets back to what kind of leader you want to be. Do you want to be somebody that has somebody's back? I think that's important. You know, there's other ways to lead. You know, there's some people lead by fear. You know, it's not the way I would do it, but it is a way. You have to decide how you want to be as a leader.
Yeah, the book The Prince, Machiavelli, it actually has incredible lessons in terms of leadership, because there are leaders who lead by fear. The problem with that is that those are the leaders that people want to get rid of. It may work for a little while, but it doesn't work long term.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I love the leadership question, because it's near and dear to what I work on all the time. So, yeah. Cool.
So we're approaching the end of the hour here. I just want to kind of share something with the folks on the call, if I can. Is just let you know something that Matt and I have started a couple months ago, and it's been working out really well. I'll give you guys an opportunity to join that if you're interested, and then afterwards we can continue to chat and take some more Q&A. But I did want to get this out to you before we ran out of time. So I'm just gonna share my screen here so I can tell you about it. Let me see. All right. So hopefully you can see my screen. So basically, as we've been doing these calls and having people jump on, Matt and I, you know, we get some folks that reach out to us and they're like, hey, you know what, can we talk a little bit more? Or do you guys offer something where, you know, we could get a little bit more intimate and talk about some details of what I'm trying to overcome and what I'm trying to achieve? So we decided to put this program together called the Data Science Superhero Coaching Program. And the way it works is you get 24-hour access to both Matt and myself on Slack. And just to give you guys an idea, you know, Matt and I both own our own businesses. We do consulting and you know, contracting work independently. I mean, I know I don't take on a project less than $50K. Matt's probably in the same boat. You know, we charge, you know, I think, you know, upwards of $2,000 a day to work with us. So, you know, the value of having access to us on Slack, you know, and some of the folks that have been working with us, you know, that they'll reach out to us at night, and if we're available, we'll just shoot you back as soon as we can. You also have access to the superhero community. So for folks that really want to develop themselves and work on personal development, is you have a whole community of folks to reach out to, not just Matt and myself. So there might be somebody in the community, maybe they're a leader at Facebook or a leader at Amazon, or somebody that's just starting out, and they may offer a fresh perspective as well, in addition to what Matt and I can add to that. So you do have access to that community. We do monthly live meetings, so we'll continue to do calls like this where we can just jump on as a group and talk about anything that you want to talk about. We also, from time to time, will do some online training, and we'll share that with you. So these calls are really designed to help us put together programs that are going to help people in certain topics. So Daliana, that's a great question. You know, talking about leadership, I think that's one of the areas we're going to be developing. right off the bat. So we do charge $99 a month for the program. Again, you know, this is really a drop in the bucket compared to what we charge hourly to work with us. But for you guys to take action today, you know, I've always been a firm believer that if you step up to the plate and you take action, you should be rewarded. So for those of you that want to take advantage and join the program today, you basically get locked in at half the rate for life. Again, you could cancel anytime. So if, you know, all of a sudden you decide it's not right for you or whatever, you could just cancel. No big deal. But you do lock into at $49 a month for life, as long as you want to stay a part of the program. Also, there's no risk, so you could join today, and within 30 days, if you want to cancel, that's fine. You don't get charged anything. And finally, for those of you that sign up right now, again, the reward, you get a free one-on-one session with either Matt or myself. And typically we charge about $250 for this. So really, we want to build up the community. We want to help you guys out as best as we can. And that's why we put the program together. If you want to join, I'll give you the link in the, what do you call it? I'll put the link in the chat in just a minute, but it's this long thing that we should shorten.
Yeah.
It's probably shorten this. But I'll put the link in the chat. You guys, if it's something you want to do, cool. If not, you know, hopefully we'll see you on another call. But this is for you folks if you want to continue to work with us in this capacity. That's it. Anybody have any questions about the program at all?
So it's just a monthly subscription, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The first 50K, I think you meant be the value in the beginning. It's like
Yeah. No, it's not 50. It's not 50 grand for you. It's just usually projects that Joe and I take on as a consultant. Just to give you an idea, it's like we don't usually do projects less than 50 grand, just because of how we structure our business. So we obviously really care about what we're doing, because otherwise we'd be charging a whole lot more. And honestly, it's charging a little bit is more to keep the lights on, because there is some like back office things that we have to do in terms of like paying for, you know, Webinar Jam and like Zoom and other things. But then also it's a certain little bit of just like everybody who wants to do this has to have some skin in the game. You know, there's just a reality of like, I know Tony Robbins talked about this years ago. Like, he's not going to take anybody on unless they pay him like $1 million or something. It's like,
yeah, it's ridiculous.
Holy crap.
So. Even Brendan, you know, when I started out with Brendan, you know, it was like $10,000 to work with him individually. Now, the last I heard, and I haven't been to his events in a couple of years, but I think he's charging $25,000 now and 50,000, and sometimes it's not even open. Like you can't, you know, you have to be in some other you know, organization to be a part of it. So,
but I mean, just to reiterate though, this is basically like you get access to the inner circle of Joe and I, as well as a community of people that are all focused on the same thing. And you know, we're very careful to make sure that it's valuable for everybody. So.
Sure. Yeah. And how many one-on-ones do we get, like once a month or?
Good question. So yeah, I mean, the way we have this structured is that, you know, it's just a one-on-one, like one time. But then we would have like monthly live stuff. I mean, I never really thought about like doing more one-on-ones. But you know, I mean, I guess we could.
Yeah, it's certainly something we could add. I mean, this is we kind of just threw this in as a bonus for today. I mean, this isn't, you know, like somebody that normally signs up typically doesn't get one-on-one sessions with us. And obviously we can't support, you know, a million of these. But, you know, for joining, you know, we can schedule some time with us. And then if that's something you're interested in and you want to do some more one-on-one sessions, then we'll figure that out. We can work something out with you.
Yeah.
Cool. And how many people are there now in the group?
Yeah, so we have a lot of interest. We only launched this program last month. So we do have one individual that signed up early for this program. So we're just growing the community. We're just getting started.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could be one of the first people to join and help us grow it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's very early, and which is great because that's why we're making it much cheaper than it's going to be, because the price will go up for sure.
Cool.
So you mentioned that it is locked in at that way. Is that the same for the yearly one? Because I'm seeing there's an option to pay yearly price. Is that locked in as well?
That's a good question. With the launch pass,
Yeah.
it should be. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. If you decide you want to do the year, then each year will renew. It's the same, it'll be the same price at 50% off.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think there's actually a discount for the year. I think it's like 11. I'm not sure.
It's just 10 months. It looks
10
like.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you want to pay up front for the whole year, then it's great.
Yeah,
take
you
the
get
discount.
2 months for free,
Yeah.
in addition to 50% off.
Oh yeah, I see that yearly it's a $4.90. Okay, so I got additional like kind of.
Thanks, Joseph. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Yeah. keeping it real. Love it.
Yeah, you can tell. I mean, I already feel like I've talked too much about it. Like, we're not trying to like oversell this or hype this up. I mean, this is just something really fun and that we're excited about doing, and hopefully, you guys will find a lot of value out of it. And if it's something that's right for you, cool. If not, I'm sure we'll talk again. All right, so we reached basically the top of the hour now. We can probably take another question.
Yeah.
If you'd like.
People are interested, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So yeah, just for background, I'm also a data science consultant at Accenture right now. So
great.
as part of the development program,
Yeah.
we have to do some training like Google Cloud Platform, very popular.
Oh, yeah.
But as I'm doing the course, I realized like Google developed like the whole new SQL of their own, and they're running machine learning on SQL as well. So I don't know like how it sounds like contradicting with what all data scientists is doing, which is building the models from scratch. And on top of that, they're also promoting a lot of AutoML. So I don't know like how those things affect like the data science community.
Yeah. AutoML is interesting because I think it's I think it's the promise of data science in my mind, of just like, who cares what algorithm you use, just find the best one and then go with it, because really what matters is you're trying to model the connection between an input matrix X to an output Y, and whether you use support vector machines or XGBoost or AdaBoost or whatever, it almost doesn't matter. So I think AutoML is great. The problem with AutoML is really a computational thing. So that's why you see AutoML showing up on IBM, GCP. I think AWS has their own AutoML as well.
Yeah.
In terms of the SQL thing, I know that Google has been doing a lot of this like kind of fuzzy matching like kind of stuff of like, I've only read about it kind of in passing, so I don't have a whole lot of insight on that. But I know that Google obviously uses tons and tons of data science and machine learning, and they do it at scale, which is really cool. So I'm assuming that they're just opening that up to people to basically say like, oh, you got SQL, and you can do some basic modeling off that. And unless you're asking about just like basic data munging, which a lot of the time ends up being SQL.
So I think those are great points, awesome points. Matt, one thing I would add, Jasmine, is, and I'm glad to see you on the call. I remember we spoke way back when you were looking to join a consultant company. I was excited to hear you join Accenture. The thing I think what's really awesome that you're doing, which I want to point out to the group, is just the fact that you're aware of some of these new capabilities that exist is huge, because as every year that goes by, especially the big cloud companies, AWS, Google, Azure, and others, they're always introducing these new services and tools that can assist you to solve your problems in machine learning and data science, right? Yep. And there's a number, there's tons of other companies that are coming out with better tools and better applications to help you. I think what's really important, no matter where you are in your career, is to at least be aware that some of these things exist. So stay plugged into these developer conferences, follow the blogs on these companies' websites, just so that you know that like these new tools are being released. And then the next step would be to, see if there's an opportunity to use the tools to accomplish what you try to do in your job. So for example, like AutoML, right? Well, that's been around for a while. So what that's trying to do is that's trying to, do some work for you or make your job a little bit easier, especially when you're trying to do a hyperparameter search. There's going to be cases where it's going to be really helpful to you, and there's going to be other cases where it's not going to be very helpful. So it's important to not only be aware of the new tools, but to know when they might be useful and cases where it might not be a big help.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. I wonder if Matthew might have a question, since he hasn't had a chance to pipe up.
Yeah, I do. So I spoke with Matt the other day. So he kind of knows a little bit, but Joe, I guess just to give you a little bit of my background, I just graduated a few weeks ago with a bachelor's in engineering.
Awesome, man! Congrats.
Yeah, seriously, congrats, man.
Yeah, not the best time to be looking for work, but I'm excited for the future. And so ideally I would like to land a data analyst role, like an entry-level data analyst.
Yep.
And so Matt, you kind of mentioned this, that like a lot of people ask this, but like, how would you recommend I spend my time this summer to give myself the best shot at landing that role? And also, by the way, I have some experience in Python and a little experience with R as well.
Cool.
So kind of like beginner, intermediate.
What's your what's your degree in? What type of engineering?
Chemical engineering. Chemical
engineering. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So the first thing I would suggest, this comes up all the time when I work with mentees. So one thing I didn't mention yet is I've been working with a company called Sharpest Minds for a couple years now, and I've worked with probably over 20 mentees now, and they are in a similar situation to what you're in, Matt, where you're kind of, you either take a boot camp or you finish your degree and now you want to get a job, but you don't really have much experience, and the whole COVID thing's going on. So what should you do? The best thing I can tell you is this. First thing is do your job search as if you were applying for jobs, if you're not doing it already, and find the positions that you think are going to be the best fit for you now. Okay, so the strength that you have is your domain experience in chemical engineering. And if you go and you do a search, you will find that there's companies that are hiring that would be a benefit to. That's going to be your biggest strength. And then build on that strength by adding your data analytics capabilities, so that your pitch to a company is going to be like, okay, I've graduated, I have a degree in chemical engineering, and also in addition is, for example, maybe you're going to do like a side project this summer with data analytics. And you can say, okay, and I also have data analytics experience. I've worked on this project, and I'm able to do things like read in data, clean the data, produce graphs and visualizations of the data, and things like that. So the important thing here is to really build on your strengths, because if you ignore the chemical engineering part and you apply to a position where that's not going to be relevant, you're going to be in a situation where you're competing with everybody else that's going to say the same thing as you do, right? Everybody else is going to say, oh, I did the data analytics, I did some side projects, maybe they even have some experience in it. So I would definitely utilize your strengths and apply to positions that are relevant to that, and then further hone your data analytics skills during the summer with online courses and project work. But definitely apply to what you learn. Don't get stuck in the space where you're just taking courses all day and not applying it. The important thing is that at the end of the day, you can tell a company that you've done something, you've completed something, you completed a project, you completed a task.
So.
Thanks. That's some good advice. And yeah, especially about building off my chemie knowledge, because sometimes I feel like it's tough to like include that, I guess, in my pitch.
Yep.
So, but I will.
One other thing I'd add to this to make it even stronger, which is a technique that a friend of mine told me. I think Joe's totally on the money. Like doing your job search to these specific companies is a really good idea. Take it even further. Read the job description, and then start to parse out like what are the things that they keep asking for. If you have 30 odd companies that you look at and they're each hiring for something kind of similar, like data analyst, entry level, they're going to say, oh, you need R or you need Python. Make that list, and that becomes what you can work on. Because it's like if they keep saying, oh, you need to have, MATLAB experience. Okay, well, MATLAB's expensive, but you can learn Octave, which is like the free version of it. And that works really well, because when you walk in, they'll say, hey, do you know MATLAB? Oh yeah, I got that covered, no problem. And it's all about taking all of the objections out. You want to be able to walk in and there's no objection to hiring you. You don't want somebody to say, oh, this guy doesn't have MATLAB experience, we can't hire him. So yeah, Joe, that's really, really good advice. I love what you're saying. So yeah, it's just yeah.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I really like your both of your advices, like going backwards from the job posting and then see what's the requirement, because there can be different type of data analysts. You need to figure out where are you a fit for, and also I think going with your domain knowledge on the engineering part is good, but from what I see is my coworkers, a lot of them are from engineering background. So I would say maybe kind of allocate the job you want to apply as a kind of portfolio, maybe 80% like Joe mentioned, focusing on the area that you're familiar with, but as 20%, just kind of whatever marketing company, Facebook, or whatever, just try it. I think now people care more about what you can do than what your kind of background is. And then coming from engineering background, maybe those companies also looking for some type of diversity, or maybe some type of engineering skills. And another thing, if people ask me, I usually suggest just you never feel you're ready. So just start interview early. Even if now, like today, you should just start to prepare your resume and interview. And then, the rejection, just see it as a feedback. And then sometimes recruiter are nice enough to tell you what type of area you need to work on. So just kind of like it's a joke I talk to my friends, like you don't wait till you want to get married to start dating. Like you need to just kind of learn from those experiences, and then just don't get too upset when you get rejection. Just have and then you really leverage LinkedIn, have the what is it, the premium membership, reach out to the recruiters. That's easier to get you discovered than just applying online. Yeah.
That's really good advice. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Well, cool.
If I could ask a more specific question, kind of building off like the next steps, but about like specific languages. I mean, it seems like Python and SQL, and I guess other ones are pretty popular.
You're gonna get probably 80% via, like, when it comes to data analysis. You're gonna have to learn some SQL. It's just generally speaking, you will have to learn some SQL. Visualization wise, you can go down the R rabbit hole, you can go down the Python rabbit hole. You could learn Tableau or Looker, and that's the difficulty, is it kind of depends on the industry a lot of the time. Like some people are really adept in really complex stuff, and then other companies run off of Excel spreadsheets and like Google Sheets. So it's, I would say that SQL is always going to be a good idea, because you'll learn the mental model behind like data polling and like analysis. And if you want to go further, like R, Python, you're probably pretty good with that. But then a lot of the data analysis is going to be in like a dashboard type tool a lot of the time. So it's going to be like Tableau, Looker. There's others out there. I know SAP has one, I think. But you kind of learn that stuff on the job, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good question, but I think the emphasis is not on the language itself, as opposed to what you're trying to do with it.
Right. Yeah.
Because Python, it's a programming language. Okay, so you can say, "Oh, I know Python." One, everybody's going to say that. Number two, everybody's going to have it on the resume. It doesn't really set you apart from the crowd. But if you say, I built a Python library that can visualize, the chemical compound information of, some certain chemical set, right? If you can say that, that's so much more powerful, saying that you built something with this programming language, than just the programming language itself.
Yep. It's true.
Yeah. I'm going to try to take on some sort of project this summer.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. Another question, I don't know if you would have a good answer, but would you recommend like taking on a project with like a mentor, or doing like a boot camp? Because I know boot camps are also like project based a lot of the time.
I mean, it depends on what you want to do. I'd say that, boot camps are great. You'll learn a lot. It can also, I mean, it really depends. I think if you're just looking for finding, interviewing and that kind of stuff, you're going to probably have more success with working just with a mentor, But if you're looking to level up like programming experience, boot camps are great. You can learn a lot about Python, a lot about R, a lot about all that stuff. So it's really a question of, is there a knowledge gap? Do you have a knowledge gap, or do you have like kind of an experience, wisdom type gap? And they're very different, because knowledge is like, oh, I just don't know anything about data science or data analysis. Like, you have to study some. But if it's more of like, I need to just go find a job, and I need to kind of learn how to interview better, those sorts of things, you're probably not going to get a lot of that from the boot camps. You get a little bit, but that's a lot of the time not the focus.
Yeah, I mean, to reiterate what Daliana said before, is experience trumps education.
Yeah.
So the important thing, and this is true no matter what level you're at, it's experience trumps education. So the answer to your question, Matt, is really try to get a job or try to get paid to do something that's going to help you apply your skills. Yeah. And that doesn't mean, you may not be able to get something, in a traditional sense. But go on freelance websites. There's sites like Upwork or TopTal or Touring, I think is another one. You can try to explore that route. Local community, if there's a organization at your school or a organization in your community that you can tie into the IT people and say, hey, look, man, I'm willing to volunteer and do some work for you guys, maybe some data analytics for you. Go out and volunteer that way. Whatever it is, the closest you can get to paid work is going to trump everything else, including projects. So I would say explore that and really shoot for that first. While you're doing that, you could also work on a side project. So you'll have something to talk about on an interview. But ultimately what it comes down to is when you get called for an interview, you got to be able to talk about that you've done this in a real world sense.
Yep.
Good advice. Thank you.
Cool. Well, good for you, man. I love to see your ambition and your drive, and I'm excited for all of you to share your journey and your ambitions with us today. Matt and I talk about this all the time. This is just such an exciting time to be a part of data science and machine learning and AI. I think it's awesome that all of you are pursuing your dreams in a sense in this space. It's an awesome place to be.
Yep.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap up now.
Yep.
Matt, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to just echo everything you said. It's just, I love to see people stepping up and really just going down their own path. We all have our own path, and I just love to see people, improving themselves. It gets me up in the morning. And of course, I love statistics and math and on programming and all that cool stuff too. So, I just love it. So, yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Awesome. All right, everyone. Well, listen, it was a pleasure being able to chat with you today. So glad that you could attend and discuss your ambitions with us. Hopefully we'll get to talk again through the coaching program. If not, look in the email. You'll receive an email in the next couple of days. You'll have a replay to this chat, as well as the past ones that we've done over the last couple of months. So you can check that out on our YouTube channel. And I'll also send you the link to the coaching program again in case you decide to join then. But no matter what you're doing in life, I wish you all the best, and keep that excitement and that drive going. There's so much is possible in the world. I wish it all comes true for you guys.
Awesome. All
right. Well, be safe, everybody. Enjoy the holiday weekend coming up, and I hope that you have a great weekend, and hopefully we'll talk to you all soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. All right.